Hungry Snacks Meals in the building.
I wasn't even thinking about me being on the show. I wanted to produce something for them.
Cool celebrity. Like if I went to the mall and stuff, people like, oh,
The thing was, I didn't even know that anybody ever thought I was ugly.
We look like twins almost.
Okay.
She really wouldn't be able
Covering any more subjects related. So that's why you got the raw reaction. This is pathetic. It's pathetic. Hey guys, welcome back to the Sweet Pea Diaries. It's your girl Sweet Pea, and I am back with another video. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back to my channel. And if you are a new subscriber, welcome to the Sweet Pea Diaries. Be sure to like this video, share this video, but most importantly, be sure to subscribe to the channel. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are doing an update to the Nicki Minaj, the Petties, Kenny and Nicki versus Jennifer Hough. Please let me know if you guys can hear, if you can see the screen, and if you can hear. I know my voice is very hoarse, okay? I did a lot of talking last night, reading all those documents, so my voice is extremely hoarse, but we're going to get through it. My voice is very hoarse. It does not sound like my usual self, but we gonna get through it. We have an update in the case, as I knew we would. I knew, we were going to be here. But, it is what it is. So we have an update. A lot of you guys were on the live last night, and we went over the entire court case from beginning to end. We went over all of the documents. We went through everything so that we already know what's been filed, what motions. We already know that Jennifer added another attorney. Tyrone Blackburn has not been replaced. She simply just added another attorney. And as we thought, Jennifer, she asked that she win the lawsuit based on default by, judgment by default, because we knew that Nicki and Kenny, they had not responded to the lawsuit in time. When Jennifer and her lawyer served them on September 15th, 2021, they had 21 days from the time that they were served to answer to the lawsuit. They had, 21 days to state whether what they were going to plead, what their intentions were as it pertains to it, and they never answered to it. Nicki obtained counsel, and she answered on October 15th. Her lawyer entered on her behalf her motion and her response. However, it was late. She's requesting a pretrial conference. And so she also asked that the courts take into consideration that she was late because she had obtained counsel late, and that her and her attorney had some miscommunications as it came down to whether he was going to be representing her or not. He didn't get his payment in time. He didn't get his payment until he reached out after the lawsuit, the deadline to answer had expired. She had not heard from her attorney until October the 12th. So Jennifer and Tyrone Blackburn, of course, they petitioned the court to have Jennifer win this lawsuit by default because the defendants had not answered. As of today, Kenneth Petty has still not answered to this lawsuit. Nicki answered, and she's asking that the judge and the court take into consideration her lateness, and, which they did. They took that into consideration, and they denied Jennifer and Tyrone Blackburn's request for Jennifer to win by default. But we knew, of course, that that was going to happen. As I stated last night, courts don't usually grant judgment by defaults. That's usually only in extreme circumstances, especially with a case like this. $20 million. It's between $15 and $20 million that is being asked for on behalf of Jennifer Hough. So the court has denied Jennifer Hough's request to win by default. However, as I stated, as of today, Kenneth Petty still has not answered, and we still do not know who Kenneth Petty's attorney is, if he's even being represented by an attorney. All right, so let's pull up everything and let's get into it. All right, give me one moment. I'll share my screen. All right, so there's not an actual document for the denial of the judgment by default. There isn't an actual document. Hold on 1 minute, guys. There isn't an actual document. It just says in Pacer on the outside of Pacer, right here, request for certificate of default is denied at this time as it pertains to defendant Onika Tanya Mirage. It appears from the docket that defendant Onika Tanya Mirage has filed a notice of appearance. So the fact that she filed that and it was entered into the docket, they are allowing Nicki Minaj an extension of time to file her plea and, what she intends to do with this lawsuit. So they denied the judgment by default. However, and as I wanted to show you up here, Jennifer is being represented by Stephen N. Gordon and Tyrone Anthony Blackburn. So those are her two lawyers. Stephen N. Gordon was entered into this case yesterday. He's from Tisnangaw and Associates. And last night on the live, if you look at Stephen N. Gordon's LinkedIn profile, he used to work for Nicki Minaj's attorney, Judd Bernstein. He was an associate at that law firm. That does not represent a conflict of interest because he's not currently working there. So that, I believe, must have been a strategy on Tyrone's part to go and get an attorney that knows Nicki Minaj's attorney and knows his style. I would assume that's the whole reason behind doing that. So she added another attorney. She did not replace Tyrone. She just added an attorney. So Tyrone, today, he filed his first motion for reconsideration of the plaintiff's request to the clerk for a certificate of default judgment against defendant Mirage. He's asking the clerk to vacate the denial. And here is that letter. He is asking that the court reconsider and vacate the denial. So this is the letter from Jennifer Hough's attorneys, and it is coming from Tisnangaw and Associates. They have this letter addressed to Honorable Eric and Vitaliano. That's an Italian name. If I ever heard one, honey, they got an Italian judge. And of course, this is in New York. Dear Judge Vitaliano, we represent plaintiff Jennifer Hough in the above referenced matter. We write this letter regarding the clerk's denial of our request for a certificate of default judgment against defendant Onika Tanya Mirage on October 19th, 2021. For reasons stated herein and our previously submitted request for certificate of default judgment, we respectfully request that the clerk's denial be withdrawn and request granted. If this request requires a formal motion, please accept this as our pre-motion letter. As you know, on August 13th, 2021, we commenced an action on our client's behalf against the defendants, Ms. Mirage and her husband, Kenneth Petty, in the United States District Court, Eastern District of New York, styled Jennifer Hough versus Onika Tanya Mirage, aka Nicki Minaj, an individual, and Kenneth Petty, aka Zoo, an individual. Case number, and then they cite the case number. The action arises out of Mr. Petty's brutal, forcible rape of our client on September 16th, 1994, and his and Ms. Mirage's recent attempts to intimidate and harass our client to get her to recant her 1994 rape claim. Our amended complaint filed on September 2nd, 2021, and see, this is what I wanted to point out about the amended complaint. When I was trying to explain this earlier today on the live and in my video, there was a troll that wanted to come in the comments, again, windmilling for a certain content creator. I told you that the documents you were reading from are from August 13th, 2021. They are the original complaint that was filed. The amended complaint that was filed on September 2nd, 2021 is the one that I was reading from when you came in my live and disrespected me and interrupted it 2 days ago and attempted to throw my viewers off, stating that I was not reading the proper documentation and that I was trying to manipulate the wording so that it would suit Jennifer. The reason the sentences were different and the wording was different is because I was reading from the amended complaint, which is the most recent and accurate complaint. And that is the complaint that is going to be referenced through this entire trial because it is the most current one. All right? So that is why in this letter, you hear that they are referring to the amended complaint. Our amended complaint filed on September 2nd, 2021, and personally served upon Mr. Petty at defendant's residence in Calabasas, California on September 15th, 2021, alleges the enormous and permanent damage their actions have caused Ms. Huff. However, as you may expect, words can only tenuously express the damages she has and continues to experience. Even after commencing the action on August 13th, 2021, Ms. Mirage continued to shamelessly hurl insults to denigrate Ms. Huff. Yet, while Ms. Mirage had time to make such disparaging statements on her Twitter account and inflame her mentally deranged fans into sending death threats to Ms. Huff and her counsel, Mr. Blackburn, she ignored responding to the amended complaint. Indeed, on October 6, 2021, the final day on which Ms. Mirage could respond, she willfully failed to do so. Accordingly, on October 11, 2021, after we gave Ms. Mirage approximately 5 extra days to file a response, we filed a request with the clerk's office for a certificate of default. 3 days later, and 9 days after her response was due, Ms. Mirage's counsel, Judd Bernstein, entered a notice of appearance on her behalf. Even if it was timely, a notice of appearance does not constitute a responsive pleading, and Ms. Huff is entitled to a default judgment against Ms. Mirage. See the United States versus Arena. So again, whenever they are asking that something be done, they reference a case in which what they are asking be done has occurred. So they saying, if you could do it, and if the law applies and is applicable to that case, it applies to us as well. So that is why they cite other cases. So that case number was 2 EDNY January 29, 2007, holding that the plaintiff is entitled to entry of a default judgment because defendant's notice of appearance did not constitute a responsive pleading. And then see also Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. And so then he's basically trying to plead his case as to why she should win based off of these statutes and previous cases. Moreover, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 55A, FRCP 55A, provides that when a party against whom a judgment for affirmative relief is sought has failed to plead or otherwise defend, and that failure is shown by affidavit or otherwise, the clerk must enter the party's default. Emphasis added on must. On October 11, 2021, Ms. Huff requested that the clerk's office issue a certificate of default judgment. Per Your Honor's rules, Ms. Huff could not seek entry of default judgment until she received such certificate. If the clerk's office had promptly issued the certificate, Ms. Huff would have sought entry of default from Judge Vitaliano against Ms. Mirage. Upon appearing at the clerk's office today, Ms. Huff's counsel, Mr. Blackburn, was advised that the delay in issuing the certificate was caused by understaffing and limited hours in the clerk's office. Although we are sympathetic to the current staffing needs of the clerk's office, this delay and the reason given is unprecedented and prejudicial to our client. We respectfully request that the clerk issue the certificate of default judgment against Ms. Mirage for failure to timely respond to the amended complaint and reassert our request for such. As you know, Ms. Mirage will not be without recourse, as she can move to vacate the default judgment if and when Your Honor issues it. Despite Ms. Mirage's celebrity status, she must be held to the same rules as everyone else. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to contact the undersigned. So they're saying that I want to read this paragraph again because this is very important. Even after commencing the action on August 13th, 2021, Ms. Mirage continued to shamelessly hurl insults to denigrate Ms. Huff. Yet while Ms. Mirage had time to make disparaging statements on her Twitter account and inflame her mentally deranged fans, the Barbs, into sending death threats to Ms. Huff and her counsel, Mr. Blackburn, she ignored responding to the amended complaint. Indeed, on October 6, 2021, the final day on which Ms. Mirage could respond, she willfully failed to do so. She was on Twitter. She was, doing all of these things, talking about the vaccine, doing all of this, but she failed to respond to her lawsuit, is what the attorney is saying. You knew that you had a lawsuit that you needed to respond to. So the attorney is stating that if you were able to be on Twitter and, incite and encourage your fans to harass and issue death threats to people, you could have responded to your case. Accordingly, on October 11th, 2021, after we gave Ms. Mirage approximately 5 extra days to file a response, we filed a request with the clerk's office for a certificate of default. So what they're saying is on October 11th, she had October 6th to file. 5 more days they gave her. They did not file the response to the court for a certificate of default until October 11th. So she still had 5 extra days, and they still had not received anything. So when they filed the request on the 11th with the clerk's office for a certificate of default, 3 days later and 9 days after her response was due, so 3 days later was the 15th, which that's when her lawyer, Judd, entered the notice of appearance on their behalf. So even if it was timely, a notice of appearance does not constitute a responsive pleading. She did not state what she was intending to plead. She didn't respond to the lawsuit with a plea response. She responded with a notice of appearance, which is the wrong document, is what the lawyer is saying. A notice of appearance does not constitute a responsive pleading. And Ms. Huff is entitled to a default judgment against Ms. Mirage because she did not enter what she intends to plead. She entered a notice of appearance. So they're saying, moreover, the rules state that when a party whom a judgment for affirmative relief is sought has failed to plead or otherwise defend themselves and say what they intend to do, at that failure, and if that failure can be shown by affidavit or otherwise, then the clerk must enter the party's default. On October 11, 2021, Ms. Huff requested that the clerk's office issue a certificate of judgment. Per Your Honor's rules, Ms. Huff could not seek entry of default judgment until she received such certificate. If the clerk's office had promptly issued the certificate, Ms. Huff would have sought entry of default from Judge Villano against Ms. Mirage. So they did not enter they did not get the certificate of default in time. They entered it in on October 11th, and if they had got that certificate back before Nicki Minaj and her lawyer were able to enter in her notice of appearance, and it still was not a plea, they are saying that they would have been able, that certificate of default would have been granted. So they're saying because they were understaffed, they were not able to issue it promptly. So they're saying that should not be held against Jen because they did not have the proper staffing. So we will read that. Per your honor's rules, Ms. Huff could not seek entry of default judgment until she received such certificate. If the clerk's office had promptly issued their certificate, Ms. Huff would have sought entry of default from Judge Villano against Ms. Mirage. Upon appearing at the clerk's office today, Ms. Huff's counsel, Mr. Blackburn, was advised that the delay in issuing the certificate was caused by understaffing and limited hours in the clerk's office. Although we are sympathetic to the current staffing needs of the clerk's office, this delay and the reason given is unprecedented and prejudicial to our client. We respectfully request that the clerk issue the certificate of default judgment against Ms. Mirage for failure to timely respond to the amended complaint, and reassert our request for such. As you know, Ms. Mirage will not be without recourse, as she can move to vacate the default judgment if and when your honor issues it. So what they're saying is, because she had not responded and she was late, they could have that default judgment, that certificate, it would have been entered if the clerks in the court's office had typed it up and did it on time. They would have done it that same day. But because they don't have enough staffing, they did not do it, and it gave Nicki Minaj more time to get her paperwork in. So they're saying that that should not be their fault. That should not be held against them. And they're saying, so even if you issue the certificate of default, she will not be without recourse because she will still be able to ask that that be vacated. So even if they issued the complaint and issue the default, they're saying she still would be able to override that by asking that it be vacated. So they're asking them to please go ahead and issue the paperwork. So I'm going to explain to you what a certificate of default is, because I don't think people understand what that is. Okay? You have to understand what a certificate of default is and how you gain one. You can't just say, oh, certificate of default means that they would have won by default. That's not what it is. You have to look up these things and understand what it means, okay? A request for default is filed in an adversary case and is filed by the plaintiff against the defendant when the defendant has failed to answer the complaint, plead, or defend. The clerk can grant the request, certifying that the defendant has failed to answer, plead, or defend. All right? So when you get issued a certificate of default, that is not a final judgment. That would not mean that the case would be over. It's not a final judgment unless the court directs entry of final judgment. So that just states that you did not plead, you didn't answer, you didn't file what you were intending to do. So the case would have still been going even if they enter and grant the certificate of default. Okay? So that's what you got to understand. What is a certificate of default? It is a certificate issued by the clerk of courts, not the judge. It is issued by the clerk. The clerk can grant the request certifying that the defendant has failed to answer, plead, or defend. Okay? It is simply a certificate stating that you did not answer. And so then they would enter that into the courts, and then they could ask the judge for judgment, a final judgment on behalf of Jen. So they're saying if they had been properly staffed on October 11th, Jen would have got that certificate that day or maybe the next day. And because she didn't get it, because of their understaffing, they're stating that shouldn't be held against her. That should not be on her or her lawyers. It should be the court should take responsibility for that and allow the clerk to enter in a certificate of judgment, if that makes sense. I'm telling y'all, my throat is hoarse, I'm tongue-tied, but I am trying to explain it the best of my ability. Please give me a thumbs up if you understand that. If you don't, I will explain it again. But if you understand it, please give me a thumbs up. And if you are catching the replay, please give me a thumbs up in the comment section if you understand that. Okay, I'll break it down the third and final time. So when Nicki Minaj did not respond by October 6th, she had until October the 6th to respond. If she did not, you can file judgment to win, and you can enter the certificate of default. You go down to the clerk, the clerk's office, and you ask them to give you a certificate of default, stating that the defendant did not answer. All right? So because they were understaffed, they didn't do the certificate in time. And it allowed Nicki Minaj to enter in her notice to appear. Now, Jen's lawyers is saying that a notice of appearance is not answering to the lawsuit. It's not a plea. It is just a notice of appearance. So they are asking that this denial be thrown out and that it be reversed. Okay? So we'll see what the response for that will be. We'll wait to see what the clerk and what the courts will come back saying. But now, as of today, Kenneth Petty still has not responded to this lawsuit. So they entered a certificate of default for Kenneth Petty. Okay? So this is what the certificate of default looks like. Had they been able to do it on time for Nicki Minaj, this would have been entered. So they granted and entered one for Kenneth Petty, but they did not do it for Nicki Minaj. I, Douglas C. Palmer, Clerk of Court of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York, do hereby certify that the defendant, Kenneth Petty, aka Zoo, has not filed an answer or otherwise moved with respect to the complaint herein. The default of defendant Kenneth Petty, aka Zoo, is hereby noted pursuant to Rule 55A of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. And then the deputy clerk signed it, and it is, entered into the docket. So this is the document that Tyrone is stating should have been done for Nicki Minaj as well. So they're stating, why is Nicki Minaj being held to a different set of rules than Kenneth Petty? Nicki Minaj has still not answered to the lawsuit. She still has not stated what she intends to do. So they are making a point and showing how these two persons are being treated very differently, even though they are married and they are both defendants in this lawsuit. Nicki Minaj used her attorney to go file a notice of appearance for her, to also file a pretrial conference letter. She's stating that she needs more time. She needed them to file a letter of leave so that she could go away and answer to her lawsuit. She's got her lawyer filing all of these motions, but Kenneth Petty does not have representation, no lawyer, no answer, no nothing. Okay? So that's basically where we are right now. We are at the pre-trial, the preliminary stages of this lawsuit where, pleadings, motions, paperwork is being entered. People's pleas, what they intend to plead, that's where we are in this lawsuit. We still have not heard from Kenneth Petty. So it would seem to me that the strategy of Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty would be to separate the two. It would be to separate the two. Okay? So as we think about this case and we think about where we find ourselves with this case, there's some pros and cons happening on both sides of the fence, okay? And I wanted to take time to show you what the pros and cons were on each side, because we have to be fair and we got to look at both sides of the case. Who seems to be in better shape so far? Who's got all their I's dotted and their T's crossed? Who seems to be more prepared and whose strategy seems like it's working? All right. So we're going to outline each strategy, look at the pros and cons, give our commentary, and we're going to be out. All right, so let me pull up my little pros and cons screen. Give me one moment. All right, Jennifer Huff. She is the plaintiff, and we got some pros and cons for Jennifer. So, in my opinion, here are the pros for Jennifer. The fact that she is the plaintiff, the fact that she demands a jury trial. She wants this case to be heard in front of a jury. The fact that she added an attorney that was familiar with Nicki Minaj's current lawyer that is representing her in this case. The media and Kenny being a no-show, Kenny not answering, Kenny not appearing to have a lawyer. That looks to be in Jen's favor. Now, there are some cons, in my opinion. Nicki Minaj's celebrity status. And we just saw the difference between how they're treating Kenny and how they're treating Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj was allowed to enter a notice of appearance instead of entering her plea and what she intends to do with this lawsuit, how she intends to answer, how she intends to plead. They didn't issue a certificate of default for Nicki Minaj, and she was late many, many days. However, they issued one for Kenneth Petty. Could it be Nicki's celebrity status? Nicki default loss. The fact that Jen did not win the default, she didn't get the certificate of default, is a con. Even though Tyrone and the attorney, they have asked that it be vacated, that the denial and the decision be vacated, that's a con in my opinion. Money. The fact that Nicki Minaj has way more money than Jennifer. The fact that Jennifer, I believe they're doing this pro bono. You never know how people might defend your case. If they think, you don't have money, they think that, maybe you're not going to win, but yeah, it's a high profile case. And yeah, they want the media attention. They want this attention for their careers. But because you don't physically have the money to pay them, they might not act as quickly or defend as quickly or do intense investigation and research and put as much time and effort and money into your case with staffing, paralegals, and, pulling out all the stops because you're not physically paying them. Your money is not physically paying for your case. They would be doing this work pro bono. So the fact that she doesn't have money, that's a con. And the media is also a con. It's a pro and it's a con on my list for Jennifer. The media could hurt and help Jen. The media, you can play this out in the court of public opinion. A lot of times that helps because I'm going to tell you right now, when you pick these jury, the jurors, and you pick these jury pools, I don't care what nobody says. These people can answer questions and say they've never heard of Nicki Minaj, or they don't know who Jennifer Hough, they don't know anything about Kenneth Petty and Nicki and Jennifer. They can say all they want that they don't know about this. But everyone in America, unless you've been hiding under a rock, knows about this case. So that right there is going to be a con and a pro, because how are you going to get a fair trial? Either one of them. How are you going to get a fair shake? How are you going to have people focus their opinions and focus only on the facts and put their opinions out the door? So Jen better come with some heavy evidence during the discovery phase. She better have screenshots, screen recordings. She better have pictures. She better have voice recordings. She better have Nicki on tape. She better have some damn good evidence to support her harassment claims, because Nicki Minaj is a celebrity, and I don't care what nobody says. They're going to treat her different than they do Kenny. It is already obvious. All right. So those are my pros and cons for Jennifer. Okay. Now, my pros and cons for Nicki and Kenny. Now, my pros and cons for the Pettys. Pros, they have money, the process server, the media, and separating them. So let me explain these pros. The fact that they have money, that speaks for themselves. They have the money. Nicki Minaj has the money to defend herself. She has the money to put into a high-priced legal defense, a high-priced legal team, a high-priced investigator. She has money that will be able to pay and pull out all the stops to defend her. Now, the process server walking up on the property, stating that he served Kenneth Petty, but not physically Nicki Minaj, that's a pro for Nicki, because she can wiggle her way around this and say that I was never physically served, so this needs to be thrown out, or I need to win, or whatever, because I was not physically served. You're saying you gave my summons to someone that was not me, and to someone that you state was my husband, but there's no one by that description that lives here, and that description is not my husband. So that is a pro in her book and for her, because she is able to, dispute the fact, did the process server really serve Kenny? Now, that's going to go in my cons list as well. The media is a pro for Nicki, because we all know the Barbs. The Barbs go hard. They go in. They will threaten. They will intimidate. And the Barbs could be a plus in this instance, because if they can harass Jen and really intimidate her, they can do that so much to maybe a person would drop the goddamn lawsuit. These Barbs can make you go crazy with their just the way they think sometimes. It's like they don't care whether this woman is right or wrong. They don't care, as long as if the queen say do it, we doing it. If this is going to help the queen, we're going to do it. They are batshit crazy. And even the goddamn attorney said that these fans are crazy, that they threaten to kill people. They sending Tyrone death threats. They sending Jen death threats. Child, they done found out where Tyrone lived, where he's sleeping, where he eating lunch, and they gonna go down to the bar and they gonna kill Tyrone. That's what they saying. They are threatening him. Now, separating them is a pro, because separating them and setting them apart, you look at Nicki Minaj and Kenneth Petty and you say, well, Nicki didn't rape Jen. Kenny raped Jen. Nicki was 12 when this happened back in 94. Nicki has nothing to do with this. Nothing. Nicki has nothing to do with this. I said the Barbs are a plus for Nicki Minaj. I did not say the Barbs were a plus for Kenny. I said the Barbs were a plus for Nicki Minaj. That's what I stated. So the person that said I've never seen a Barb be a plus when it comes to Kenny, you're absolutely right. I'm saying the Barbs are a plus for Nicki Minaj. All right. So separating them is a plus, because you're putting in the perspective of, we're going to focus on what you said Nicki did to you, which is harass, aid and abet Kenny, encouraging him not to file as a sex offender. We're going to focus on what you said Nicki did to you. So they're focusing on separating Nicki and Kenny. So that way, Kenny can answer to what he did. Nicki has nothing to do with the rape. Nicki has nothing to do. And honestly, Nicki needs to take this advice. She needs to separate herself from Kenneth Petty. I think this is a brilliant idea on behalf of the attorneys. Nicki has a legal counsel. Nicki has defense. Nicki has lawyers. Nicki has the money. Kenny doesn't have an attorney. He can't afford it. He doesn't have an attorney. He can't pay for one. He's my husband, but he doesn't have a job. He doesn't have access to my money. He's not answering to this. So she's leaving him out high and dry. Hey, you've been going to jail. You've been taking plea deals. You've been not answering for crimes. Why should it be any different now? So that's what it's giving to me. It's giving Nicki, they done separated her from Kenny. Now, cons. This, in my opinion, would hurt Nicki. Black's Instagram rants. What makes you think that Black is just coming out of nowhere and saying the $20,000 thing, got guns on his laps, all of this for nothing? We absolutely know what he means. We know who he's doing it for. We know who he's connected to. So that can hurt them. If someone screen record that, if they got that and they're able to send that in when the discovery phase is in effect, that can hurt them. Kenny not responding to the lawsuit is a con. Even though they have separated them, that's still your husband at the end of the day. Married couple, what goes on in your house between the two of you, it affects both of y'all. Just because he's not answering to the lawsuit because he don't got a lawyer and they figure, oh, we're going to keep them separate, that still affects their home because that's her husband. Whether we like Kenny or not, Nicki loves Kenny. That's her husband. That's her baby daddy. They don't want him to be going to jail. They don't want him to be, not being able to live his life with his new family. So that's a con for them. Kenny not responding. Kenny taking a plea deal for not registering as a sex offender. In my opinion, that's a con. If you're saying that you're not guilty, you didn't do these things, in my opinion, why would you take a plea deal when registering as a sex offender? If the goal, so this was what the goal was. This is what Jennifer and what is being said that Kenny was trying to do. Now that he is with Nicki Minaj, he does not want to be on the sexual offender registry because he wants to be able to travel. He wants to be able to go out of state willingly. He want to be able to be around children, kids, and all that because he's got kids now. He want to be able to take them to school. He wants to be able to do things. And I'm pretty sure traveling and being with Nicki, there's places that he can't go as a sex offender. He would be denied entry. He wouldn't be able to go and do the things so willingly that she's able to do because he doesn't have his freedom. So they want to get him off this registry. So they suing the state of New York, stating that at 15, he was denied due process. He was railroaded. He didn't have bail money. He didn't have lawyers. He didn't have money. So they treated him like any typical young black boy and they railroaded him. And he really didn't do these things. So they're suing New York, right? So then they want Jen to recant her story. And they took this is what Jen is saying. And they took a statement that they had, the recant letter, they had already drafted it and wanted her to sign it. So that way they would use that, turn it in along with the lawsuit, get all of that overturned because Jen saying that this never happened to me, he never did this. This would get him off of the sex offender registry. The case would be overturned. All of that would be thrown out and he would be basically a free man and the state would probably owe him money and all of that. So if that is your strategy and that's what you want to do, why would you take a plea deal stating that you are a sex offender and you did not register like you were supposed to when you moved to California? So in my mind, taking a plea deal for that was a con. If he really wanted to get off from that, he should not have taken that plea deal. So some of these things just shows you that he's guilty, because when a guilty person knows they've done something, how can you fight it? You can't fight guilt. The con, in my opinion, is also the process server again. Because if the process server is able to prove that he did serve Kenny, then that is a lie. They have lied to the court. So if they are able to prove the process server served Kenny Petty, then he absolutely is able to accept Nicki Minaj's summons because that's his wife. So if the process server had on a body cam, or if he took a picture, or if he has proof that he served Kenny, then she swore on a affidavit she lied, stating that it was not given to Kenny, that the process server is lying. So I'm really hoping for the sake of Nicki Minaj that this process server is not able to tell, because that's going to be lies and that's perjury. And that's a serious offense. Ask Lil' Kim. Now, Nicki admitted that she knew about the complaint though on 9/22. So that if they pay attention to her attorney's letter, the pretrial letter and the notice of appearance and the letter that the attorney entered. We read that yesterday. She admitted that she knew about the complaint on September 22nd. She said, after finding out about my complaint, I contacted an attorney on September 22nd. She was served, allegedly, by the process server through Kenneth Petty on September 15th. So if you stated that you're late and you didn't answer because you didn't know about this lawsuit, that's a lie, because you admitted in the letter that you knew about the complaint on September 22nd. So those are my pros and cons for both sides, okay? We're going to keep following this case. Like I said, we're going to keep following it. Every time there is an update, we're going to do a video and talk about what we find and talk about what is going on. In my opinion, who do I think is in better shape? Right now, it is too hard to tell. It's too early. It's not enough. I don't have enough. I don't have enough to be able to tell what's what, because I need to see the discovery. I'm waiting for the discovery phase, okay? I need to see what Jennifer has as proof that they were harassing her. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why would someone go this far with a lawsuit if they didn't have proof? If she did not have screenshots, documentation, pictures of these attorneys and people popping up at her door, if she doesn't have record of it, pictures, recordings, I'm going to be gagged. I'm going to be gagging if she doesn't have any evidence. But something tells me that Tyrone Blackburn, Jennifer Hough, and their new attorney have some tricks up their sleeve. There is no way that this woman would be going this far and have a legal team standing behind her if she had nothing. So I think she's got some pretty, incriminating evidence, and we will see that in the discovery phase. Now, Nicki Minaj and Kenny Petty, they are a power couple because, they in the press. They're celebrities. Kenny has become a celebrity. He's married to Nicki Minaj. So this case is interesting. Both parties are being played out in the press. Kenny is the villain. Nicki is the villain because she's married to Kenny, and we're all upset with Nicki because she won't separate herself from Kenny. We feel that she can do better. And then the Barbs are upset with me because I want their queen to do better. I feel that she can do better than this bum. So they're mad at me because I don't like Kenny because he's a rapist and he raped Jen. They don't believe that he raped Jen when he has admitted to something because he went to jail and it was attempted rape because the first degree rape was downgraded to attempted rape because what did he do? Took a plea deal. He took a plea deal. So this is what Kenny does. He takes plea deals. He's been doing that his entire criminal career. So I guess Nicki said, boy, you've been taking plea deals. Taking one on this one too. But me, I'm going to have a defense team. I'm going to pay my lawyers to get me out of this. We're going to separate myself from you. And I think that's brilliant, on a brilliant strategy as far as Nicki Minaj and Kenny go. I think that it was, a brilliant and a strategic move on her attorney's behalf to separate them because they need to see her separate from Kenny. They don't need to equate her with rape. They want to take her away from that. So they could say, well, she was 12 when that happened. She doesn't have anything to do with that. They want to focus on what Nicki's charges are, what Nicki is being accused of, which is the intimidation tactics, the harassing, getting her to recant her story. That's what they want to focus in on with Nicki. So I think it's brilliant on behalf of the attorneys, but that's what you pay high-priced lawyers to do. Think up a strategy, think up how they can get you to win, whether it be by being dismissed or whether they just put it all on Kenny. And then they say, well, damn, Kenny ain't got no money. How the hell he gonna pay for anything? How you gonna pay for anything? Child. So, yes, that's all I got, guys. This has been another edition of the Sweet Pea Diaries update in the Nicki Minaj, Kenneth Petty, Jennifer Hough lawsuit. Isn't she aiding and abetting Kenny now also? When you do not allow, encourage someone to do what they're supposed to be doing, that is aiding and abetting. When you know that they are committing an act of crime, or, by not registering as a sex offender when you know that they're supposed to, yes, that's considered aiding and abetting. Absolutely. So, I mean, they're not out here breaking laws like, killing people or breaking in people's homes and things like that. But aiding and abetting, and it's not like she's harboring a fugitive. And that's aiding and abetting. She's not doing that. However, she is encouraging him not to register as a sex offender. But how do we know? How do we know? She might not be doing that. We don't know if she's telling him you need to go on down there and register. We don't know. We're not in their home. But it just appears that way. It appears now that you're with me, it's giving you don't got to register, because he had been registering all up to that point. And once he got with her, now you stop registering. You are not Nicki Minaj. You don't have the same celebrity status. You don't need to travel. What do you need to travel for? You don't need to travel. She needs to travel for her career, for her job. You can stay home and be the stay-at-home daddy. You got one job, and that job is to be the husband. Yeah, well, I mean, kind of. That's what enablers do. They pet, they coddle, they make excuses for. And we've seen that behavior with Nicki. They coddle, they make excuses. They say it's the victim. Say that it's the girl. I mean, she's learned that from her mother. Her mother did the same thing with her brother. I watched an interview with the mother talking about the brother and what he did with the stepdaughter. And it was the same thing, enabling, making excuses. And the evidence was staring you right in the face. Evidence staring you right in the face. So it seems to me that there has been a history in the home of Nicki Minaj, coming up as a child, teenage, adult years, where they harbor, sick individuals, and they make excuses and they enable. They place blame on victims. It's your fault. Shame the woman, shame the child, shame the victim. So this has been another edition of the Sweet Pea Diaries. You guys be sure to like this video, share this video, but most importantly, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next video. I'll catch you on the next update. You guys have a safe night. Be blessed. I'm going to bed. Bye.